This is Matt and the Man Cave, guys. It is late nights after dark, and it is still like negative 30 out there. It is so cold. Guys, when I'm saying it's cold, and I have some really nice coats and stuff, it is cold. I ain't fooling around. It's really, really cold. Hey, guys, can I tell you something? Do you hang out with foolish people, like stupid people? Listen, I heard this story, and it was the funniest story, and it goes along with our verse today. Okay, these people, okay, they built this humongous snowman in their front yard. I mean, this thing was like 12 feet tall, okay? The base layer was this tall. Okay, so the big circle on the bottom was this tall. Then there was a smaller one and a smaller one. You're like, Matt, I know how to make a snowman. Okay. They go to work, okay? Now, guys, here's what's funny. When they come home, the snowman's there. A little bit of the snow has been knocked off, Mr. Frosty, okay? But there's headlights, there's a fender, there's a front grill, and there's all these pieces of glass everywhere. And they're like, well, good grief. And you're like, Matt, are you saying someone hit the snowman and the snowman survived? That's one alpha male snowman. Well, listen what they did. In the front of their yard, they had a tree stump that was this big, made of solid oak. It was this tall. It was this wide. It was a ginormous tree, and they used it kind of like a picnic table, okay? And what they did was, here's the thing, part of the snowman was they packed snow around this stump. Okay, but this stump isn't moving. I mean, this stump is legitimately, I'll see if I can get a picture of it. It is this wide, and it's huge, and it's just solid wood. Well, some idiot, okay, and let's give him the term idiot. I mean, he qualifies, okay? He decides to be ornery. He decides to be stupid. You know what he thinks? I'm going to ramjet the snowman. And so what he did was he spun up, okay, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. He's going to ramjet the snowman. I mean, it's by the road. No one's going to see, and there's plenty of space, okay? And he hits it, and here's the thing. Tow truck time. You know what I'm saying? The neighbors say, yeah, there's a tow truck in your front yard. You know what I'm saying? What is that not the funniest story? But again, it goes along with our text today in Paul's writings. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33, he says, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals. Oh my goodness. Guys. Who are you hanging out with? Who's hanging out with you? Look, I used to think, well, I'll hang out with my bad buddies, okay, because I've given my life to the Lord, and I'm going to church now. I'm saying I'm a pillar of salt and righteousness and light. You know what I'm saying? And let me ask you this. Do you think that that I brought them up, or do you think because there were so many of them that they brought me down? They were always wanting to go see things that I already made the decision. I'm not watching that stuff anymore. And they were listening to stuff that God had healed me of. I didn't need to listen to that stuff anymore. And there's always this pull, and they were wanting to do things that I wasn't wanting to do. I mean, God had changed my appetites. God had changed my desires, okay? Because if you still have an appetite for something and a desire for something, guess what? You're going to do it. Because you have a sin nature. Did you know that? So let me share this with you. If you're in some kind of bondage or some kind of addiction or something that you just can't get rid of, I mean, you're struggling with it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. It's because you desire it. You see what I'm saying? You're longing for it. There's something there. And what you need, okay, that thing that you're desiring, that thing that you want, that thing that you're always going back to, as the Bible would say, is the pig going back to his vomit. Watch this very carefully. You need God to change your desire. Have you ever asked that? Listen. Have you ever asked that? God, I'm really addicted to alcohol. Would you change my desire away from alcohol? Or God, I can't stop popping pills, or God, I can't stop looking at pornography, or God, I can't stop doing this or this or this. Fill in the blank, this or this or this or this. Would you change my desire on it? And as you pray that, if you really mean it, and you start taking the steps you know that are necessary, and you're like, and the steps that most people think, well, the steps is stop doing it. Well, yeah, that is a step, but the step, it's not what I gave up in life that changed me. It's what I started doing, meaning I started incorporating more of God into my life in many different areas, okay? But one of the things that God had me to do is I had to start distancing myself from relationships that were toxic, that were not healthy. And it's hard because that person, okay, a lot of times, what's funny is as I started separating from these people, these young men, okay, they were glad. Because they didn't want to even call me anymore because I was a fuddy-duddy. That's what they thought, you know what I'm saying? One of them is in jail right now, still. He's been there for 30 years. Another one lost a leg in a DUI crash. Whatever happened to the other one? It was just tragic. I mean, these 8 guys that I used to hang out with, I met them at work and we were palsy wowsies. When I look at their life outside of Christ, I think one of them actually, got married and the wife led him to the Lord, and he is happily married with a wonderful job and family. He has the best looking dog. I mean, you see what I'm saying? God's turned his life around, but the other guys, it's tragic. I mean, listen, going down that broad path is tragic, okay? And yet, you know what's so funny, guys, is Satan is always telling us, it's almost like Satan puts on neon signs like Vegas, you know what I'm saying? That all of this is what you want. I mean, this is going to make you so happy. And you know what I'm saying? And it leads me and brings me to the Bible where it says sin is pleasurable for a moment. But Satan, he never tells you the consequences of sin in the long run. You know what I'm saying? Over the course of weeks, months, and years, what it's going to do to a relationship, what it's going to do to your relationship with God or the lack thereof. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes I have to cut loose of individuals within my life, to grow in Christ. Now, that doesn't mean that God eventually won't bring that relationship back together. Meaning he's done that many times once a person has gotten into right relationship. Meaning this, the person is of the what? They're of the fold now. They're in Christ. They've been born again. God did that. But God had to remove me out of that situation, Bad company corrupts good morals. That's what God is screaming here. See, even if we were to go to Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, listen to what it says. I like this one. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Meaning this, you're going to suffer, by who you hang out with. I mean, these people are going to either be lifting you up or tearing you down. And one of the things I always like to do, whether I'm in church, when I was in seminary, when I was in Bible college, is I like to find people who knew the Lord, who loved the Lord, who were smarter than me. I mean, here's the thing. Are there smarter people? If you answer this wrong, it means you're full of pride. Are there people in this life that are maybe a little bit smarter than you? Matt, maybe one. Maybe 2. So I used to like to find the people who were smarter, and I always focused my focus on someone who loved God, who was really dedicated to the Lord, who was a man of integrity, who was walking a narrow path, Because I noticed as I hung out with that individual, whether it was going out to eat after church and just sitting there and just listening. Friends, there's just something about listening and looking at God's hand on their life. And friends, I started getting around people with one thing in common: no compromise. They wouldn't compromise. Did they sin? Yes, we all sin. But listen, they had drew a line in the sand that they were done with that past life, They were born again. The old has died. Behold, all things have become new. You see what I'm saying? The picture of baptism really took place. The old you has died. The new you has come up, but oftentimes we're jumping back into the baptismal and we're just wanting to go back down with the old man and just have a little bit party time. That's not good, But these individuals that I'm talking about, the one thing that they had in common more than anything, that they were men of integrity and they did not compromise. And guys, here's the thing, When I got around them, they were lifting me up. They were encouraging me. I mean, they were helping me in my relationship with God. They were getting me excited. Friends, you got to realize there's enough in this life, to douse the flame. What are you talking about? Look at just daily life and the grind of life is enough to douse the flame, and to get you kind of numb. What you need to do is go to the hardware store and get a couple 10-gallon buckets of gas, and go fill those bad boys up and throw them on the fire. And what is that? That's nothing more than you getting around like-minded people, whose eyes are steadfast on the Christ, and see what they do on the weekend. And what do they like? You see what I'm saying? And here's the thing. I felt like a fish out of water because weeks earlier, early on in my life, I was doing this and this and this. And you're like, Matt, what was this, this, and this? I'm not telling you what this, and this was. Come on. You should know this. That was funny, guys. Okay, but listen, I was doing all this stuff that was contrary to my call. It was contrary to me being a born-again Christian. It was contrary to me being a child of the living God. It was totally contrary. What does light have to do with darkness? What does good have to do with evil? And I was doing all this garbage, and yet, here's the thing, I was still struggling, going back and forth between the lives. So when I started hanging out with these guys versus Buck and Jerry and Larry, what took place? I started watching how they acted, how they spoke, how they responded to their children and to their wives, how God had blessed them. I started looking at everything. I started kind of picking apart their life. And the one thing that I came up with was this: they loved the Lord, and they were obeying God, and they knew when they sinned that they repented quickly. And I mean, they just kind of excluded certain things from their life and said, no more. I drew a line in the sand. Yet these other things, they were just gobbling them up because God says feast on them. It's my will. God's not up there not wanting you to have a good time. Oh, no. It's just that you and I, because of our sin and because of this darkened state that we're often in, we don't know what a good time is anymore. God will change the desires of your heart. He will change your goals, your vision, your direction. He will do something that you could never do in this life. But there is some choices that you and I have to do. Sometimes you got to cut some people off, okay, that influence that they have on your life, okay? Sometimes it means I'm sitting at the lunch table by myself. Am I judging? No, but I can't sit there anymore and listen to those stories and those jokes and how they talk about women, and I did this to her and I did that to her, and I was like, really? I think half of what you just said was a lie. I heard so much garbage at the lunch table, and for so long I was like, wow, I can't believe he did that. He didn't. It's all lies. He's watching films. It's a joke, okay? But that's of what? That's of Satan's kingdom. That's not of the kingdom that I've been invited into, and now I'm living under, and I'm enjoying the spoils of the heritage of being a child of the living God, having royal blood, having the favor of God flowing down from heaven and His Spirit living inside me, okay? I'm salt, I'm light to a lost and dying world, and I no longer want someone looking at my life and using my decisions and choices, saying I'm a Christian, but seeing my behaviors, okay, and justifying their sinful actions because of my life. And that's what people do. You'll say you're a Christian, but you'll tell them what you went and saw over the weekend or what you're listening to, and they'll look at your life and they'll use you, my friend, as a reason why they can continue sinning. You don't ever want that, guys. No, I'm telling you, live in the freedom that God has given you and live in all that freedom. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Friends, you're free today. You've been forgiven. There is no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus, okay? Listen, there's no condemnation, okay? But we have to break away from the past, do we not? Sometimes it's a relationship. Sometimes it's what? An attitude, a behavior, a thought, okay? We have to reprogram our mind, as Paul would say it in Romans 12:1 and 2, okay? See, in Paul's writings in Romans 12:2, it says this: do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the what? By the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God. Well, the perfect will of God is what we want to live in every single day and rest in that, okay? Not strive, but rest in that. And guys, as that's taking place, you wouldn't believe the difference that it makes in your life, in your choices, in your desires, and what you long for, okay? And the blessings that come out of that. I mean, just so many abundant blessings. I mean, it's like you're giving up something so small over here, but you're gaining so much, okay? And again, the greatest thing you can ever gain, okay, is to draw nigh unto God in that relationship, in your intimacy with God, and hearing His still small voice daily directing you in the things that you're to do and experience and enjoy. Hey, this is Matt, late night in the Man Cave. See you tomorrow.